Hello, everybody, and welcome back to One Hub Racing. We are here again for another late night talk show on a Sunday evening after some very entertaining races. This week we headed to Spa in Belgium. Jono, it's a track yourself and I have had some interesting battles on in the past, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that always happens at Spa, doesn't it? We always get decent racing and we always get incidents and all sorts of things thrown up, strategy problems with the wet weather and stuff. And I think we saw pretty much all of that, how to crash an F1 car across the tiers, that's for sure.
Yeah, and qualifying seemingly at Spa, it's one of those circuits where it's just not as important, is it? The race always seems to, it's never one of those straightforward races. The winner always has to go through some sort of hills and different weather conditions or safety cars or something. And this time it was no different in terms of entertaining races, lots of DNFs, lots of heart in your mouth moments, and a lot of the drivers having an early Friday night.
Yeah, definitely. Despite these cars having more downforce, it just seemed so tricky to drive, didn't it? And Eau Rouge in particular just saw so many drivers losing it there. Lap after lap, we were losing one after another. And yeah, you've got to earn your victory for sure. You've got to have the pace, obviously, but you've got to have, the strategy nailed as well with the weather that we saw in a couple of the tiers. And yeah, and just getting the car to the end as well and not making too many mistakes was obviously crucial.
It definitely is, and of course we had our podium tier, pinnacle tier, and prestige tier all take place on Friday. 7, 8, and 9 p.m. are when those tiers took place. We had 19, 17, and 18, I believe. So good turnout. But Spa is a track that drivers look forward to because there's always great racing. But as you mentioned, Eau Rouge and Radeon on this game. I mean, I've driven it myself. It's just so much trickier than any previous of Codemasters titles. Why do you think they've done that? Because in real F1, it seems to get easier and easier over the years.
Yeah, it just seems to be how the handling model reacts, doesn't it, to that section of track? The undulation combined with the steering angle on the car. And I think the fact that people are running ballast to the rear as well to try and be quick, it just makes the rear of the car unstable. And yeah, we saw so many incidents, despite the fact that, like you say, in real life now, for most of the cars, it's just comfortably flat out, as it was in previous Codemasters games as well. So obviously caught drivers out, and we knew they were aware of it in the week. In practice, I see people saying that they were struggling over that part of the track. But yeah, perhaps in time trial, the car was rock solid, but when you get to race day, it's completely different.
It definitely is. Alrighty, we're going to have some drivers join us later on in the talk show. We're going to talk to Ollie from the Prestige tier, who we haven't spoken to before. CXY from the Podium tier. Again, we haven't spoken to him. And then we're going to get Reflow in here from the Pinnacle tier. And also TK from the Pinnacle tier as well. So it'll be good to chat to those guys later on. But first of all, Jono, if we head to the Podium tier, it seemed Upper Rouge, two title contenders straight away out of the race. And then, the guy sitting in second in the Drivers' Championship, Jorit, he looked set to fully capitalize on that. And he made a mistake, which ended up costing him a good chunk of valuable points and, ones that he could have used to close that gap to first place between himself and Danestar. But yeah, two championship leaders, three of them all making mistake up Eau Rouge. Two of them it proved fatal.
Yeah, it was really surprising, wasn't it? And from watching the race back earlier, I just don't think he could believe it, could he? The mistakes these guys were making, just as everyone thought it was going their way, they'd been it, or they'd make an error as well, in the same part of the track. And it was surprising to see, that guys weren't just perhaps backing off slightly after seeing others fall by the wayside there. But I guess everyone's out to push to the limits. But yeah, obviously all the championship contenders there, all three of them, scoring no points or very few points at all.
And look who's there to pick up the pieces. Second week in a row. This time was a little bit easier than last time out. But Adrilla Doc, new to the league, and in the last two races, he's picked up the full 50 points. So he was able to take advantage of those mistakes from the guys out front. And yeah, he went on to take a dominating victory. So a good addition to the podium tier and the league.
Yeah, he's a great addition, isn't he? He's able to mix it, obviously, or more than mix it, winning the last two, and he reminds me of Donkall coming into the Pinnacle tier and doing a similar thing there. So he's definitely spiced things up, and he's taken the fight to those guys who perhaps thought they had the pace to win, quite easily win a few races. Well, he's come in there and shown them that you've got to fight for your victory.
You definitely do. And as the podium tier went on, Boffy Dweller managed to keep it together. His connection, that is, to take second place. So, excuse me, still a little bit unwell. Well done to him. Stevie finished in third as well. Is up for Driver of the Day vote. What a good drive that is from him from 10th on the grid.
Yeah, fantastic drive, and yeah, to say like you say, come from 10th to get third is brilliant, and Boji behind him as well, 13th to fourth. So, but I guess we saw that across a lot of the tiers, didn't we? If you survive, then you'd likely make up quite a few positions because of the others falling by the wayside with DNFs. But good drives all the same, and Botticello, as you say, I think he did have a disconnect again, but managed to come back in and got P2 as well. So well deserved.
Yeah, Jort recovered to 5th. Jonas took 6th position. Razor in 7th. Ols in 8th. Jamie in 9th. And White Eagle claimed the final point. The rest of the field, the other 9 of them, all DNF. So, yeah, entertaining race, but no safety cars, Jono. We would expect nothing more from Codemasters on their beautifully built F1 2018. All right, onto the Pinnacle tier. You commentated on this one, and it was mixed conditions, wasn't it? They started on the dries, and then it went to intermediate weathers. Did it go back to dries again? I can't remember.
Yeah, it did, and it was just horrible conditions again, starting on that intermediate tyre, and it was just I just felt nervous for the drivers commentating on it, just seeing them on the start line there. Obviously on the dries initially, but with the rain falling, nothing more scary, I don't think.
Samstar didn't have the best start, down to I believe 6th position, and it was left between the returning Reflo and Donkall to battle it out for lead. Reflo showed us that he has still got the pace, and he was able to overtake Donkall, which we haven't seen many drivers do in the last few races, and actually keep ahead of him. But then that strategy call where he went for inters and they put him on the mediums proved to be his final say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah,
We've
absolutely
all done
gutting
it,
for
haven't
him,
we?
wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to do. Came out on the wrong tyre, and the worst track of the season to do that on is Spa as well, because it's such a long lap. You just know you're just going to lose so much time trying to get back round. Plus the long pit lane as well, relatively long. So yeah, it was disaster for him, and looking good obviously to pick up some good points, but all went wrong.
And as you mentioned, when the top boys falter, it allows some of the other guys in the midfield pack to get some good points. And Lukey, look at that. We only spoke to him on the talk show a little while ago. Second place, 18 points. He'll be happy with that. White Fountain again up on the podium. And Lawrence finally in 4th position for a good result from him. From 16th on the grid as well. Matt in 5th. Mace Somin in 6th. Jor in 7th. Scorpion in 8th. Don Call, after 2 front wing changes or 2 front wing damages in 9th. CSS gets another point on the board this season. All right, prestige tier. It was all happening here again in qualifying. Jono, so close, even at the longest circuit on the calendar. But it was an interesting race. Like the others, we saw incidents up Eau Rouge that took some of the quickest guys out.
Yeah, I think we lost 2 or 3 drivers straight away. Blizzard was one of them, I know. And yeah, once again, we've got so many quick drivers. The race is over after all the preparation, over in just, well, a matter of seconds for some of them.
Yeah, when you think about it, drivers when they put in hours of, practice and stuff like that, it's so frustrating to have it all ended. But sometimes there's certain incidents, up a corner like that, a Rouge, where you can always do a lot different, because if you were to lift off or slow down too much, you're probably going to be involved in something behind, because it's such a high speed corner, heavy fuel, tires aren't up to temperature yet, and as we saw in all 3 tiers, it really did prove to be fatal for some. But McSendit managed to, because there was rain later in the race, but he managed to come out on top. So he had no problem with that at all. And Ollie, he finished in second. So fantastic result from him for 15th on the grid. So he's done really well. And he has done the last few races, John. I will talk to him in a minute, but he seems to be able to just come through the field, and just pick drivers off and finish in the top half.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he pitted. He was the first to go to the Inters, I believe, as well. He went a lap earlier than most of the others, and that was an inspired call as well. It was always a bit risky and never quite sure if it's the right time, but paid off really well for him, and yeah, allowed him to pick up that P2, and it was a brilliant result, obviously, there to get on the podium in between McSendit and Odems.
And speaking of the championship, Julian wasn't here. We also hearing that he's not here next week or the week after. So Blizzard, he crashed out on that one. It would have been interesting to see if he was able to close that gap, but wasn't able to take advantage of it. Odem's letting Ollie through to get second on the last lap. That was a nice thing to do from the experienced Odems. We don't often see him being generous. So yeah, we'll have to give that a shout out. MLA, ever so consistent in fourth. Jesse took fifth. Pletsic took sixth. Lakitu took seventh. Malloy in the points in eighth. Scott Feeder in the points in ninth. And then Elku DNF'd in 10th position. But yeah, again, some high DNFs all the way down. But all three races, as we'd expect at Spa, a messy start, no safety cars, a little bit of rain, and just generally, there was always something to watch all the way through from the first lap to the last.
Yeah, we still got good racing, didn't we? I think in all the tiers, despite the fact that, well, I presume that was probably the lowest finishing numbers we had across all three tiers this season. I would imagine we're getting to single figures there in all three by the end. And but despite that, we still had some good racing and some good battles.
Yeah, I think there must have been a total of 26 or 27 drivers DNF. So absolutely
Yeah.
crazy to have that many drivers DNF, and they were all pretty much at Upper Rouge. There were a few where just that crossover point when the second sector, that little building on the left hand side, which is in the strangest of places, as the second sector changes to the third. But it's one of those old fashioned tracks, John, which we want more of in terms of the gravel and the grass. We don't want none of this car park stuff, and although the drivers high DNFs, they know what's at stake when they're pushing over the curbs and pushing everything to the maximum.
Yeah, they do. That's how it should be, isn't it? And I'm all for these sort of circuits. And we've got plenty of those up and coming as well, with obviously Monza and Suzuka and what have you coming up soon. So great to be on these sort of racetracks. It definitely sorts out, who can actually keep it within the track limits for the full race distance and deal with all these different conditions that you just don't get, obviously, on these sort of rushes and what have you, where you can just push the limits with no real, penalty for breaking the track limits at all, and not much risk involved in comparison. So yeah, I'm all for these sort of classic circuits, and I hope we don't lose any more of them. So Silverstone, sort yourselves out and get on the calendar for next season.
As I'll invite the drivers in then, Jono. Do you just want to obviously in your drivers briefing this week, you announced that for the rest of the season all of the tracks will be on strict corner cutting. Do you just want to summarise, why the stewards came to that decision to change it in something that has been pretty unique here, where we've alternated between regular and strict for most of our history?
Yeah, absolutely. Advantage of the regular rules, and you just never know on regular what other drivers are doing. You've always got in the back of your mind, are they cutting it a bit more than me? And it just creates that sort of feeling. So put it on strict. Everyone knows where they stand. The game is up to it, I think, just about. So we'll obviously carry on monitoring it. But yeah, as things stand for the remainder of the season, all races will be set to strict corner cutting.
Awesome stuff. So welcome to the party. Just waiting for a flow at the moment, but we shall start without him. Guys, just make sure you set your voice to be shared in this party so that everyone watching can hear you. But let's go to CXY first. It's Jack, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So good friends with Sean, who obviously commentates on your tier. How are you? You've been with us since France, I believe, taking quite a few pole positions, a nice number of podiums. You enjoying your time here at One Hub Racing?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely it's amazing running with these guys, racing with them as well. It's been a good fight with them.
You've had some really close battles with Jorit, haven't you? Where they've been remarkably clean, wheel to wheel. As a driver, how much does that excite you going into a race on a Friday night?
I mean, you can't really. It's nothing better, to race with someone like Jorit, especially him. Like most other drivers, is it's not so easy with Jorit because Jorit is very, aggressive as well. So to keep it clean with him, especially, is really hard as well, kinda. But somehow we've still kept it clean somehow, and yeah, it's really nerve-wracking, especially.
What's been your favourite race of the season so far since you joined?
Oh, easy one for me. 100% been Britain, having that fight with Jonas, and then unfortunately spinning out, but then the recovery drive to second was amazing.
It definitely was indeed. Do you think had you obviously started, at the beginning of the season with the rest of the drivers, you would have been fighting for the Drivers' Championship?
No, I thought I'd be in like the midfield or like somewhere like in battling for or barely battling for the points, but to be up here, it's just insane, right now.
Awesome stuff. We'll come back to you in a minute. TK, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Good evening. Good evening, farewell. Thank you.
Now, obviously, good friends with Jor, who's your teammate. He's raced with us for a couple seasons now. Do you have a number one driver in your Haas team, or do you play everything pretty even?
We played pretty even. I think we watch race by race how it goes. I think in Hungary he lets me pass one moment, and in Britain it was the other way around. So we are on the same side.
Awesome, and talk to us about this midfield battle in this pinnacle tier, because a lot of the commentators mention it, how close it is, not just in qualifying but in the race. And there could be 5 or 6 cars in a train, and you spend an entire stint, trying to get from the back of it to the front of it. How exciting is that? And obviously, you've had some incidents in the steward's office. Do you think some of the drivers are defending and attacking too aggressively?
It's pretty intense, to be honest. But it's fun that way. I think some drivers, it's nice to be around in the midfield, and there's respect, and when they behind or in front of you, there will be a clean, nice battle. And with some, yes, I said it enough, I think. It's sometimes I don't understand why people do things, but that's part of the game, I guess.
Just quickly, how happy for Joe were you when you saw? I saw on the stream you were in Paris when he got pole position at Germany, was it?
Yes, Germany. Yes, happy, but also I messaged him from where I was that I didn't think it was the best strategy to start.
Sometimes that temptation to
Yes.
take that pole position got the better of him.
Yes, but yeah, it's nice to have it in the stats, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Raflo, welcome back. Talk to us about have you had words with your pit crew since Belgium?
Yeah, I got a new pit crew. Yeah,
Good stuff. That battle with Don Court, do you feel, obviously he had the wing damage, but did you feel you had the better of him? Because, whilst you've been away, or the races that you've missed, he's kind of dominated, and he's definitely had the pace over Sam.
Yeah, I definitely think I had the better of him. Yeah, the last few races I haven't been in, I think Don Cool has been dominating it, but I'm back now, so there won't be any more of that.
Awesome stuff. And obviously the championship, it looked so promising early on in the season. It's faded away, with missing a couple of races and a few incidents like in Spain. It hasn't happened for you. Sam's just been able to keep on that podium all the time. Do you see him finishing off the season taking the title, or do you think Don Cool can do something about it?
No, I think Sam's definitely going to win it. And to be honest, as much as I don't like saying this, he is definitely the deserved champion. He's quick. I don't think he's the fastest driver in the tier, but he is definitely the most consistent. I think he's had about 10 podiums, I think, which is pretty impressive if I'm doing my calculations right. But yeah, you got to give it to Sam. He's been very consistent, and yeah, I think the gap is somewhere between 70 to 80 points, and there is 9 races left. It's definitely doable for Don Cool if Sam, DNFs 1 or 2 races. But again, Sam being consistent, I really don't see that happening.
But just to put things clear, Sam's not quicker than you, is he?
No, definitely not.
Good stuff. All right, Ollie, we'll come over to you. How are you finding the prestige tier? The qualifying is pretty close.
Yeah, well, I've at Spa found that qualifying probably wasn't the better strategy, as you saw there was rain at the end of the race. So my main idea in qualifying is to set yourself better up for the race no matter what. And I was helping my teammate Odems, who I got along well with, and at the end of the race, instead of battling him, I just chose to let him go and just sat behind him like I did in Germany. A couple of races ago when I got podiums there as well. So it's just making sure we bring home points for constructors with me and Odems.
You're definitely showing the tier that it's not about one lap pace, because all your results come from further down the grid in qualifying, and you're obviously able to manage getting through the traffic and your tires, which is why you find yourself like second place on Friday.
Yeah. There was a lot of down to strategy as well, because when the rain came out first, I was with Odems and I was in a party with him, and we discussed that I'd box first because I felt that I always seem to remember it's Spa, so it's a long way around the track, so it's more likely it's better to box early than it is later, just because of how long it takes to go around. But it turned out to be the worst strategy. Well, it was slower, but at least I didn't hold me or Odems up in the pits, which would have cost us loads of positions. So. And
you obviously, he let you through at the end there, I think, and as you cross the line, so it shows you two are getting on really well, which for someone to get on with Odems is quite rare. So.
It was really good respect from him, but I feel as that because I'm friends with him anyway, so it's not that hard to get along with him if you know him that well. But anyway, it was just been working well together, because in Germany I didn't put him under pressure because he had loads of time penalties, and I was just sitting behind because I didn't have any penalties, so I was just sitting behind. It wasn't distracting him, let him go as fast as he could. And in Spa I did the same again, just let him go, not causing us to crash like the Red Bulls did in Baku or in Turkey, just bringing it home.
Awesome stuff.
Show Helmut Marko how to drive.
You've got I believe you've got a third and a second now, is that right?
I've had a few seconds.
So it's 2 seconds.
I've had 2 seconds, and I think I had a few odd results. And in Hungary I had a poor result, I think. Can't remember why, but I think I had a bad result.
You've got a couple seconds. Do you think before the end of the season you can take that ludicrous win?
Well, looking at tracks that are coming up, tracks like Singapore, USA, I don't want to be cocky, but I feel as though I've got a lot of pace to bring up to the front. Like I had a race night in Singapore, which I did really well, and I won the race. And tracks like USA, I just feel my race pace is very strong there. So tracks like Singapore and USA are probably my best bets.
Awesome stuff. Alrighty, CXY, we'll come back to you for a final round of questions. I'll just ask you, Jono, is there anything you wanted to ask any of the guys before I do the final round?
I'll just quickly ask Reflow. Obviously, last time you were on, you were sounding pretty confident, and although you thought that the championship was quite comfortably on, but obviously you missed a few races since then. But I think your confidence, it inspired the Ferraris on probably to want to beat you even more and has increased their pace. Do you think that's the case, and do you think maybe could have held a bit more back at the time?
No, I just think I've made quite a few mistakes and game errors in the season. The Ferraris, they are very quick, especially Sam. As I said, he's a very consistent driver, but I think, I have missed 2 races. I've made a few mistakes, and yeah, I think if I didn't make those mistakes, and if I did race those 2 races that I didn't, I think the championship would still be on, definitely.
Okay, fair play. And CXY as well. Your qualifying has been a highlight, I think, in the podium this season so far. Like, do you think is that what you sort of specialise in? Do you think that's a real strong point for yourself?
Well, I don't know. I try to more generalise than race pace, but right now I don't know how, but I'm surprisingly really consistent in that pole position. I don't know how, because I normally base my pace off race pace because I feel like it's more of a strong point for me because of my driving style, but I don't know, just something, it's weird, getting that top step 4 races in a row as well, it's weird, but it's how it is really, I guess.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And TK as well, obviously we've mentioned that massive rivalry with other drivers that you've been battling all season in that sort of midfield area. And especially with sort of Made Showman, Lukey, those sort of guys, but you're above those in the championship, the majority of them at this stage. Does it sort of inspire you on to beat them even more? The fact you're battling really, really hard with them on track every week.
It's not that I look to those drivers. It's more if I look to Samster, he also races on the pad. He also has the same assist on. I mostly use one of his setups. And I think he needs to be my aim, and he's a long way off. I've closed in during the season, but it's a long way off. But he is my target, and where I will finish in points, that doesn't really matter.
Very fair play. And Ollie, finally, obviously you've mentioned your strong tracks coming up for the remainder of the season, but next up we've got Monza, and after all the crashes we saw across all the tiers up Eau Rouge on that one at Spa, how do you feel about going into turn 1 at Monza in that field of amazingly quick drivers? Do you think your chances are pretty good of coming out of there in one piece and taking it to the front runners?
Well, at Monza, it's fairly equal. There's not really a lot of places you can gain time apart from the chicanes and the Ascari. So, but I know it's just mainly down to low down force and getting slipstream of someone. And just to your other question, you might as well just go straight on at turn 1. It's gonna be carnage.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
I'd just like to add on to asking a few questions to. First of all, to CXY, just talking about qualifying, I felt like I've had the same problem as you in other leagues and this league as well, just qualifying. I find it. I don't know how you found it getting out of that loop of struggle with qualifying, but sometimes it's better to, would you say, put yourself further down the field and forgetting about pole positions from time to time. Would you agree with that? Or
I mean, if it depends really. Like if it's a track like Italy, you can probably afford to do that because you can make up a lot of ground, and if you're gonna do that, you really have to pick places where you're strong. Well, you've got really good race pace, and you can really make your way through. Because in Italy, you're bound to have an incident on turn 1, like if you're in the midfield or up top. So yeah, I mean, from time to time you could afford to do that if there will be carnage in lap 1, but yeah, it depends on what track really. For me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty, I'll come round to the final set of questions. CXY, you had to wait a while to get your seat in the podium tier.
Oh yeah.
Was it worth the wait?
Same.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it was 100% worth the wait because I remember sitting that lap of Hungary. Right, I did like a 16.4, 16.5 or something, and then when I came to doing France after the race, I found out that I do another, what do we call it? I do a time trial at Hungary, and I did like a 15, a really low 15 or midfield 15, and that just shows how much time I had to improve as well. It gave me time to improve for these races as well. Because if I'd like come in sooner, I don't think I'd be as prepared or as ready. So it just gave me time to prepare. So yeah.
And for the rest of the season, who would you say is your main rival? Obviously, you got Jorit, Dane Star. You got Duladoc, who's just won the last 2 races. Who's your main rival for the remainder of the season?
Probably Dane, because normally I'm looking up to Dane to see what he's doing, and I'm like, I race with him a lot as well, actually, surprisingly. I'm always in his pie, we're always doing like 5 lappers together, and to beat a friend and also a rival as well, because he's he's leading the championship. So I'm just trying to, if I can like hang with him or like beat him in races, but I don't think I can get championship, because how far I am behind him. But yeah, to beat him this season in a lot of races, that'd be good.
Awesome stuff. TK, do you think you can? Obviously, 8 rounds to go now, is it, or 7 rounds to go? Can you get on that podium? Do you think, like we saw Lukey do on Friday in Belgium?
I think I need a little bit of luck, and the races where luck played a role in France and Belgium, I screwed up myself. So I don't know how many chances there are. There are just a few drivers that are too quick, and Reflow is one of them, Samster, Matt, Donkool. So when those guys finish and drive their race, there's no chance on the podium. But in this tier, you never know. You saw in Spa, so I need that luck to get a podium.
And yourself and Jaw, excluding obviously last week, you've been frequent visitors to the points. Where do you think you guys can take the Haas team, before the end of the season? You're currently in 6th position, but do you think you can, get into the top 5?
Yeah, we try to close the gap to Toro Rosso. I think Scorpion and Chopper are guys who are on the same level as Joe and I do. But mostly Scorpion has been more consistent, and also Chopper is scoring a lot of points. So they're far away now, but I think on pace we evenly matched.
Awesome stuff. All right, Flo. What are your championships? It's outside. What are your goals now for the rest of the season?
I think you said there was 9 races left, I believe. So I want to win at least 3 or 4 of those races. So unfortunately, I'm missing Singapore, which I think
you're not missing much.
Of February? Yeah, I know I'm not missing much. Yeah, I probably picked the perfect date. But I think I'm gonna give myself the goal to win at least 4 races. Yeah. I think it's definitely doable.
Awesome stuff. Ollie, on to you. What do we say? 8 races left of the season. Yourself and Odoms. Red Bull, I think you move into 2nd place in the constructor standings after your double podium on Friday. Do you think you can you can stay there, or even possibly with Julian missing the next 2 races in the Mercedes? Do you think you guys can do the impossible and beat Mercedes?
First of all, can I ask what the gap is? And second of all, if we can continue up a consistent top 5 streak with loads of people missing, holding them back, I think we could do well. Because I've only been in one hub since, was it Germany or Britain?
I believe so.
I think it was Britain.
Round 10, wasn't it, or round 9?
I think it was Britain. It was either Britain or Germany. So since then, we've been doing the graph, just racking up points. I don't want to be big-headed, but I'd like to try it with Odoms. We'd have to keep racking the points up. But do you know what the gap is?
Yeah, so before Friday's race, you were 154 points off of Mercedes. Now they scored 12 on Friday, so what does that make it? 166. And then you scored 33, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So help me here, guys. What's that? 133? 133 points now? I think that's it. I think it's a 133 point gap, and I think that puts you into second or third place. But you know, with Julian missing the next 2 races as well, it's you got to maximise the next 2 races to make that achievable.
Who's
I think.
Julian's teammate? But Julian fighting for the championship.
MLA is his teammate.
Oh, Julian's fighting for the championship with Blizzard, so he's up there. So he's obviously rapid, like we saw in Hungary and other races. He's just up there. Like he's literally always a man on a mission, trying to just take it to Blizzard or Blizzard take it to him. So we'd have to consistently outscore MLA. I think that's the only way, and just maximise our chances with him gone. But Julian wasn't there on Friday, was he?
No, and he's missing the next 2 races as well. So definitely an opportunity for you guys.
Yeah.
Nick, can I just add something real quick?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat now, and White Fountain said he's going to come for me. So I just want to say a little something to you, White Fountain. Yeah. I think he's a few points behind me because I've missed a few races. White Fountain, you know, you've done pretty good. You got podium, your last race, sorry, so I think you're going to get demoted to 4th. I think Matt's going to get that, but yeah, I'll be waiting for you on track, White Fountain.
And Scorpion as well, saying that TK, you ain't catching Toro Rosso, but like you said, we shall see.
How are the drivers looking? Wait.
Drivers' Championship, well, I think Julian can have his next 2 weeks off and still come back and comfortably probably take the title.
Just go for a cheeky little summer break, whip out the decks, yeah.
But we shall see. It's all to play for in the constructors, I think, definitely. So best of luck to you and Odems for that. Although it would be very painful for me to have to ship a trophy to Odems. But
we can ship it to me in Jersey, so.
Yeah, yours is fine. Just giving Odems any sort of praise doesn't sit very well with myself and Jono.
Just give him a digital trophy. Just give him a digital trophy.
Yeah, I'll just give him a thumbs up. That'll be fine.
Give him a follow.
Alright, guys.
Make a TikTok and
Yeah, I'll do a TikTok with him.
Also, has anyone seen this? Someone set a 16 in bloody at Monza, or 116. How?
16. They must have 1 wings.
I know.
And
something crazy. Alright, guys.
1 wings and slipstream at every straight.
Thanks everyone for joining. We'll close it out now. Guys, thanks for popping in and chatting to us. Best of luck next week in Italy. Hope you all have a good race. Jono, I will speak to you next week. Yes, definitely. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.
Yep.